Hello everybody and welcome to Knife Delights. We are going to start part 3 on this old knife. So in part 1 we soaked it in Dawn dishwashing liquid and got all kinds of stuff out of the back springs there, and then we soaked it in mineral oil and gave it pretty good action. So pretty good snap to it. And then in part 2 we ground the kick down right here, because this blade was very proud, and as you can see, it falls right into place there. So it's no longer proud. So what I thought we'd do for part 3 is, I'm always tempted to want to really shine up the blades and to get them smooth and brand new looking and that. And when you start using sandpaper, you leave a lot of scratches, and then how do you get all the scratches out? I've had some limited success in the past, but I'm gonna double my efforts here on this one and just keep working on this one. I'm gonna probably work on this side here with the nail nick, and then we'll leave that side unsanded so we have something to compare with. Actually, I think I'm gonna do this side here because there's no nail nick and it'll be easier to sand. So I'll make it a little easier. So this will be our experimental side. So I do know one thing, that when you start sanding, you want to start with some sort of a medium type grade, and then lower, or actually increase the grit amount. But you want to start like going horizontally first, and then when you step up with a grit, you want to do it vertically. That way your scratches, as you're going back and forth, you help take out the scratches from the previous grit. You don't always want to sand in the same direction because the scratches kind of get deeper. So what I have here to start out with is, that's the 2000. I have some 400 grit sandpaper here, and we're just going to start with this, and we're going to see what it looks like. Okay, that was about a minute or so of sanding, and you can see the blade seems to be looking a little bit shinier there. Now this is going to take a lot of sanding and a lot of patience on this. So I am just going to stop the camera, and I'm going to work on sanding it with 400 grit. Okay, as you can see here, I've been sanding on this with the 400 grit for about 15 minutes. It sure looks shiny and it really feels smooth, but there's some pretty deep scratches in there from the knife use. And if you look really close, I don't know if you can see it, but you can almost start to see where there's the scratches going. Let's see, that would be horizontally there, or vertically there. So before those scratches increase, I'm going to switch to 600 grit paper, and then I'm going to start going horizontally here, and try to mitigate getting any deep scratches going vertically there. So I might be switching back and forth between 400 and 600. But as you can see, some of those scratches are pretty deep in there. So this is going to take a while. So let's just see what happens after I use some 600 grit. Okay, so I spent about, 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes going over this blade. And again, I did it horizontally with the 600 grit. And boy, is it starting to really shine up here. Now, what I was looking for, if I can get this to focus right. Sorry about the lighting there, it's kind of hard. In the areas where you don't see scratches from use, you can see where that's really just shining up really nice. And what I'm looking for is, am I leaving scratch lines from the actual sandpaper? And I don't see that. So look at that, and then we look at the reverse. You can see the difference in the blades. This one is starting to shine up very nicely. It is just baby bottom smooth. It's just amazing how smooth that is. And it's starting to look real good. But again, there are some really deep scratches in there from just normal knife use. So now I'm going to go back to the 400 and we will go vertically again. And I'm just going to keep going back and forth between the 400 and 600. Again, swapping out with the 600 and going the opposite direction to keep any deep lines from being scratched in from the 400 grit. All right, I want to give just a little bit of a quick update here. Let me see if I can move this light a little bit so the shine isn't so bad. It's very difficult. Okay, I'm trying to see. I won't focus on that. It's hard to see. Let me see here. You cannot quite see them unless you look real close. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up or not. But when I'm going vertical, back and forth this way with the 600 is where I ended up last. You can just barely start to see the lines going back and forth across the blade. So I've gotten to the point where I've got this sanded down pretty good. There you can start, if you look down in here, you can kind of see the vertical lines from the 600 grit. There's a better picture of it. So we're at the point where you can definitely tell the lines in it as I switch back and forth from going horizontal to vertical. But this is, I don't know, 20 or 25 minutes of sanding on it, alternating back and forth. I've gotten rid of a lot of the blemishes on it, and it is really shining up really good. There's a good shot. Now you can see the lines. So you can see with the 600 grit, the scratches that you're going to leave in a shiny blade. And that's why you want to alternate back and forth. So that's just a quick update. I'll go back to it. Okay, so we had the lines going vertically before, and now you can start to see them going horizontally more. So I'm starting to, there's a good shot down here on this end. But you can see, even with this light sandpaper, how it leaves scratches. But I have starting to erase those horizontal lines and replacing them with vertical lines. And that's why you just keep going back and forth and back and forth. Well, let's just check our progress right now. So I've spent probably 45 minutes to an hour off and on. 10 minutes here, 15 there, going back and forth. I actually switched to just using the 600 grit, going both ways. And as you can see, maybe if I can focus, as you can see, I've got a lot of those blemishes off of that blade. There's one spot right there, and maybe a couple other little spots there that just don't quite want to come off. And you can see the very fine scratches in there. But I've taken out all of those big scratches from, the normal knife use. And I think at this point, it'll be a losing effort to continue on with even 600 grit. So what I do have is I have some 2000 grit. And I'm just kind of using some of the materials that I have on hand. I wish I had something between 600 and 2000, but I don't. So I think at this point I'm just going to try using the 2000 and go back and forth like I was. And let's just see what happens. I spent about 10 minutes or so using the 2000 grit. And when you hold the angle just right, you can see the very minor scratches in the blade still. But compared to this side here, this side is coming right along. that's really polished up really good. I don't know if I can do any more with the sandpaper. It is kind of hard too when you're doing it by hand to get it, even pressure all the way across as you're sanding, so it doesn't come out quite even. I think at this point I'm going to switch to the Dremel tool and the polishing compound that came with it and see if I can't polish out those small little scratches. But they are very, very, very small. But this blade is looking so much better than when I started. So let's just see what happens with the Dremel. Well, let's take a look here. It does look like it's taken out some of them smaller scratches. Let me see if I can get it better lighting here. So shiny that so much reflection. It does look like it's evening that all out, although you can still see some scratches. But I will continue to work on it. I do have to stop periodically because this blade is getting quite warm, so I'll just keep working on it and see what we got. After several minutes with the Dremel, this is what we've got. Look at the shine to this blade. Now you will notice after polishing it using that polish, we're going to get the blemishes are really going to show again. I really don't think with the tools I have that I'm going to be able to get much better than this. I would have to keep sanding down, to even out those blemishes and that. But look at the difference between that and this. So for right now, I think I'm going to call this a success. I might put some case paste on there, see if I can finish it up. But I think, and of course, when I'm holding it away and I'm not near the bright lights shining down on it, you really can't see those blemishes. You really got to look hard. So I think this, for using hand sanding and using the Dremel for polishing, I think this came out pretty good. To get a total mirror finish, I think you'd have to have, like a great big buffing wheel and some better buffing compound in that to evenly get all that, all the scratches out and the blemishes. But I tell you what, and it is smooth. Oh my goodness, is that smooth. You cannot feel those blemishes at all. So I think, yeah, you can still see the tiny little scratches. But I mean, you really got to look close at it. So for this old blade, as scratched up as it was, again, look at this side. See all those scratches hidden here from use? Those were over on this side too, and I've gotten rid of an awful lot of them. So let me just throw a little case paste on here quick, and well, here's our final product. Made a couple little passes with the case paste, and I don't know if the camera will do this justice, but this thing is mirror bright. And yes, you can still see some of the little blemishes down in there, but again, you got to look hard. In normal lighting and from a distance, you really don't see them. And once again, there's the comparison. I'm going to call step number 3 here, polishing the blade. I'm going to call it a success. And perhaps someday I'll have better equipment and I'll actually be able to get like a factory mirror shine on these. But I'm very happy with how that came out. So until next time, everyone have a very delightful day.